a new kind of journalism. Media was very, very active at that time. So all these forms were put together, and eventually when the political party emerged in 1944, it was called the Dravida Kazhagam, or the DK, and they believed in fact, supporting the British against the Indian freedom movement, because they believed that if India gains independence and freedom, it would only bring about a Brahminical rule, and they were certainly not going to accept the idea of Brahminical rule. Now they want to propagate this idea. The whole it was very clear that at that time in South India there was illiteracy was quite rampant. I think education was not more than 25% in the 1940s. So how does one communicate? How does one talk to an illiterate constituency which doesn't know how to read and write? So you can't do it through your writings or your journalism and so on. So interestingly, they decided to work with the newly emerging technological medium called cinema. And it was through cinema that they thought they would propagate this whole idea, this new idea that they had thought of. The leader of the movement was somebody called sorry. सोने चला गया So this was the, I suppose some of you know that in the state called Tamil Nadu, where the Tamil language is spoken, and which when after Indian independence, when these states were divided, Tamil Nadu became a separate state. And in Tamil Nadu, since 1967, which means for the last roughly 44 odd years, 45 years, there has been a continuous rule by what are called the Dravidian parties. And there have been 4 consecutive chief ministers from these parties who have all been either film stars or script writers for cinema. So this was the biggest icon of them all. His name is M.G. Ramachandran, MGR it was called. And there was a huge cult following around MGR. There were millions of people who kind of lived and died for him virtually. When I joined the media, soon after I finished college, when I joined the Indian Express newspaper in Madras, in Chennai, it's called Chennai now. The very first news article I was given to edit by my news editor was a report, a survey report from the General Hospital in Madras, which had a blood bank. The Madras General Hospital is one of the biggest government hospitals in Asia, and it has a huge big blood bank. But the blood bank found that it had tremendous variations of blood donation. On some days there was absolutely no blood donation, and some days the blood donation was going up. So they recruited the help of the Madras School of Social Work to do a survey and find out why this was happening, what was the secret behind this. So typically they would find that on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, hardly any blood donation, 0 blood donation sometimes. But Wednesday, Thursday, it started going up. And Friday, it will just hit the ceiling. Suddenly 2,000 people are donating blood. And then Saturday, again, it becomes almost 0. So they were very puzzled about this. Now the survey result was what was given to me to edit. And the findings were quite astounding. The finding was that every Friday an MGR film was being released. And people were queuing up to donate a pint of blood, for which you got a 5 rupees compensation. So they were, in order to catch the first show of the film, they were donating blood. They didn't have money to buy food, but they were donating blood to get money to buy a film ticket. And I remember giving the title for the article, "Movies Are in Their Blood," and immediately getting the job. And I started working as a journalist from then. But that also got me very curious and very interested in these two phenomena. One was the phenomena of the Dravidian movement and why it was so popular, and secondly, how they work with cinema, how they work with the idea of using films for a new kind of cultural politics which was not known in the Indian national movement before. I mean, we have had many well-known Indian filmmakers, theatre people, writers who were part of the national movement. I mean, from Tagore onwards, or French, and you know those names. But an entire party using culture in this particular manner was very new, was unknown. So I just want to give a little background as to when this begins. So all this begins around 1944 with this gentleman called E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar. Now this is another, how do you say, component of the cultural politics of the Dravidian movement, creating these kind of cutouts. This is one of the biggest buildings in Chennai, and the cutout is much bigger. It's about 80 foot tall. And he was a founder of the party, the Dravidian movement, and he was very fondly called EVR. EVR was, or Periyar. Periyar means an elder person. So he was the elderly person of the wise man of the movement. Very progressive guy who believed in an equal and just society, and believed in gender justice, he believed in caste equality, all those things. And he is the guy who eventually trained all these successive chief ministers and film actors, etc., by deciding that his propaganda machinery will no longer be newspapers but will be cinema. And from the year 1948 onwards, they very deliberately start using cinema as the medium of discourse. This is the first Dravidian chief minister of Tamil Nadu state. His name is C.N. Annadurai. He used to be a professor in a college, but became a chela of the previous person you saw, of E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, and began writing very extraordinary articles and novels and short stories, and influencing the public. He was a fantastic orator. He would speak for 8 hours without a break. And he wrote the first script in a series of about 36 films that we call the Dravidian films, because they were all party oriented. They were not necessarily being funded by the party, but they were all speaking the party language. The ideology of the party was being propagated. So Annadurai wrote the first script for a particular movie called Velaikari, or which means the domestic worker, and the female domestic worker, and talks about the oppression of this female domestic worker in an allegorical sense, meaning female domestic worker represents the subaltern class, and the oppressor is the Brahmin householder who's, making her life miserable. So it's an allegory for the party politics, that we don't want this kind of unequal relation, we want an equal relation. And then very soon his colleague, this gentleman called Mr. Kathmandu, who also became the second chief minister of Tamil Nadu and continues to be, he's 86 years old today, and he continues to be contender for chief ministership. He's in a wheelchair and he's ailing, but his political sharpness is still there. He still writes film scripts. Just 6 months ago, the state celebrated the 100th film script that he had written. So he's a very prolific writer, extraordinary journalist, very good speaker, etc. But he created the very first, impactful box office Dravidian film hit. It's called Parashakti, Parashakti is basically another name for Devi. And once again, the female goddess. And through the symbol of the female goddess, the story writer, the script writer, the filmmaker tell the story of what Dahal was just now talking about and what his film talks about. Superstition, Andhavishwas, the idiocy of people who go to worship a god, and so on and so forth. So in that, with a very powerful dialogue, which is actually written by the patriarch, the old man you saw, the very first slide that I showed, EBR, which is one who believes, this is in Tamil, Kadavulai number one mutta, which means one who believes in God is an idiot. One who worships God is a fool. And one who propagates God, meaning the priest, is a jungle. So this became their slogan, and it was a very popular slogan. It was on the lips of everybody for a long time. And even today you will find, if you come to Chennai and visit Tamil Nadu, you will find virtually in every district and taluk headquarter one statue dedicated to that old gentleman, and below that this caption will always be there. This anti-religion, anti-God statement is always there. So they had this certain atheistic attitude. They believed that religion was the root cause of all evil, and religion was under the control of the priest, and therefore the priest was the root cause of all evil, and we needed to abolish this. That was a basic core idea. So, these two are, of course, Rajiv Gandhi, who was assassinated by the LTT. G.K. Mopanar was the Congress president of the National Congress Party for some time, but he never became chief minister because these guys always thwarted his chief ministerial ambitions. Anyway, so in a row, all these important political figures in the state of Tamil Nadu, which is one of the most developed states in India, in terms of industrial growth, Tamil Nadu ranks second in India. In terms of education, it ranks third in India. In terms of human rights index, it ranks second in India, and so on. So it's very high on the rankings in the Indian state, in the 29 states that India has. So it's been continuously dominated by these figures. And then finally, when, like I said, in 1967 they come to power, and I will tell you how that whole story happens. It's very interesting. In 1967, when they come to power, the first chief minister is this gentleman. The second chief minister, Annadurai, dies in 1969. So from 1969 to 1973, is Karunanidhi, who was the chief minister. And then Karunanidhi's right-hand man was, where is the person? This guy, who was the film star that I was talking about, M.G. Ramachandran. He played a hero in 136 films. And the story goes that he played hero often to an actress, and when he was a hero to her mother and her grandmother also. So he was in cinema for a long time, 55 or 56 years. He continued to be a hero. And this is this political avatar. So in 1973, he criticized Karunanidhi's regime and Karunanidhi's rule, and went on to become the chief minister, the new chief minister. And after, so these are some of the cutouts. You see huge cutouts which decorate or used to decorate the landscape of Chennai. And his leading lady, MGR's leading lady, the heroine in his films, for over 41 films, she was his consistent partner on screen, and also was partner in real life in one sense, unmarried, but I mean, he had 3 wives, but this lady was his partner. Her name is Jayalalitha, and she is the current chief minister. Very, very popular, extraordinarily popular, and very powerful, meaning she controls and there's no second in line in the party. There is only Jayalalitha. There is no number 2, number 3, number 4. Her diktat rules. By the way, these are all photographs that I have taken. I'm basically a photojournalist, and this is the kind of stuff that I do. So now, I've given you a very short history of the party. Like I said, for the last 46 years, this party has been ruled, not one party, but the Dravidian movement, which split into the two parties, DMK and ADMK. DMK is what Kathmandu belongs to, ADMK is what this lady and her mentor MGR belongs to. They split away from the main party and formed a new party. But we keep in India praising the CPM, the Communist Party of India, Marxists, for having an unbroken rule of 32 or 33 years in West Bengal. But nobody speaks about the fact that the Dravidian parties have ruled Tamil Nadu for 45 plus years. And that's a major record. Now, the way they did this, and the way they used the cinema, is the story that I'm going to narrate. When the first films began, in the year 1948-49 that I talked about, this was the kind of the image of the hero. That hero you see there is MGR, M.G. Ramachandran, who later becomes the Chief Minister. The title of the film is Marma Yogi. It's made in 1951. Between 1949, when they started making films, and 1962 was a big year in India because we had the war with China. There was an Indo-China war. So those roughly 10 years or 11 years, the DMK party was a secessionist party. They said, we don't want to be part of India, we want to be a separate nation. And therefore, they used to constantly ridicule the idea of nationalism. They used to burn the Indian constitution on the roads. They used to protest on the streets against the Indian army, Indian police, etc., etc. And in the cinema, they used a very interesting device which is called a allegorical device. Meaning you don't say directly, because there is censorship in cinema in India. So you can't say directly that I don't like the Indian nation, immediately you get arrested. But what these guys used to do is create a hero who would always be an outlaw. When the film begins, the hero, everybody knows, the audience will be told in the prelude to the film that this is the legitimate heir to a throne. There is a kingdom. The kingdom has a legitimate heir. Raja ka beta jo hai, Rajkumar hai. Ab wo Rajkumar ke piche all kind of, evil forces are behind the Rajkumar, and they have exiled him into the forest. वो कहीं mountain पे चला गया है, कहीं forest में चला गया है, कहीं गायब हो गया, exiled हो गया. And the whole film then is a story about how this man fights his way back and captures the legitimate kingdom. So that's a whole allegory for Tamil Nadu belonging to Tamils, to the DMK, to that party, and how the Congress is a usurper. At that time, Congress was in power there, and why eventually the DMK will come back and regain its legitimate kingdom. So this is one of those first films that was made in that genre, Marma Yogi, in which the hero plays the role of a doctor, of a Ayurvedic physician, a Marma Yogi, someone who can cure you by touching some point in your body if you have some particular ailment, just by some, like acupressure, certain touches, he can solve your problem. And what the hero does throughout is solve the problem of Tamil nationalism by touching certain points. Then you have this kind of images, which is like Malay Kallan, meaning, like I said, he is an outlaw bandit, something like a Robin Hood. He's a mountain brigand who keeps raiding the kingdom to rescue the kingdom, and he robs the rich to pay the poor. The rich here means the rich Brahmins, the guys who run the temples, the landlords, and so on and so forth. The Robin Hood figure. So this was the kind of image that was created. And even today, I guarantee you, come with me today to even Chennai city, which is one of the fourth biggest metropolis in India. population of almost 8 or 9 million people. Some of these films are continuing to be popular and they're still released. Once in 6 months you will find an MGR release happening nowadays. And some of the biggest theatres, which otherwise are crowded with all the new releases and Shah Rukh Khan and Amir Khan and those kind of big budget films, and they're paying heavily to the exhibitor to show, they keep aside everything and play these films, and audiences go and jam-pack the halls, and every time this gentleman appears on screen, you will hear the sound of coins, tack, 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 people are throwing coins into the auditorium. So that whole thing continues even today. So this is another similar film made in 1951, Nado di Menon, or The Runaway King. Same story, legitimate man, he's been sent away, but he comes back and regains his real throne. So now here you see on the left and right, this one and this one are the screen image of MGR, and in the middle here is a poster which is his political image. So diametrically opposite. The political image is not glamorous, if you want to call it that, but the others are all made to look like glamorous. Another film in '69 called The Slave Girl. Here once again the slave girl represents an enslaved Dravidian nation. You know, Mother Tamil has been enslaved, and how the hero struggles to liberate the whole thing. So now the story is this. Like I said, between 1949 and 1962, until the Indo-China War, something like 14 films like this were made. 14 films, each of them box office hits, each of them big grossers, which made the hero a bigger and bigger figure. Until the Indo-China War happens, when the government of India of that time arrests, under Jawaharlal Nehru, arrests all the leaders of the Dravidian party and puts them in jail. Because they were a secessionist party, they were refusing to participate in parliamentary election. And they are kept in jail, and the feeling at that time was the war would go on for a long time. But luckily the war lasted a very short time, it lasted hardly less than 2 weeks. But during that period, all the leaders were put in jail, and they were threatened that if for lifetime you will stay in jail, unless you sign on the dotted line and agree to become a parliamentary party. Only then we will release you. So very soon, within a week's time, all these leaders signed an agreement, a bond, that they will come out and become a parliamentary party. And that's what they did. So from 1962, they're a full-fledged parliamentary party. Now, within 5 years, in 1967, they're coming to power. In less than 5 years, they're coming to power. How do they come to power? So it's a whole phase of what I call constituency building. How they use the cinema. Now they don't want to create a hero who is a runaway, Robin Hood, who is a king who has lost his kingdom. They don't want to create all that. Now they play a completely different game. And that is this kind of thing. They start addressing every single vote bank in their constituency. So one of them, for example, is a traditional fisherman. Tamil Nadu, as you know, is a coastal state. It's got a long coastline, and there are at least 4 or 5 million traditional fishermen who use those log boats. They are called catamarans, and other mechanized boats and all that to do fishing. So he plays such a hero. He plays a fisherman who rescues an entire community of fishermen from a particular disaster and from a very rapacious moneylender. And of course, the rich man's daughter falls in love with him, and hey presto, everything becomes okay. The other constituency, it's called Our Own Boy. This is addressing the middle class, the educated middle class. It's asking them to arise and become a little more active in life. It's actually a Tamilized remake of Ram or Shyam, the old Dilip Kumar hit. But in this, the politics is brought in. The whole politics of standing up for your rights, speaking out. If you're educated, if you've gone to school, if you've gone to college, don't keep quiet, speak out, and so on and so forth. Then in 67 is playing the role of Vyavasai, or the agricultural peasant, so a farmer who's working in his land. or in this he is playing the role of a school teacher, teaching a very good lesson there to students obviously. So like that sectionally, section by section, everybody is addressed. Here, this is an address to the cowherd community, which is also a very big vote bank in Tamil Nadu. So you find a very interesting shift in the way cinema is used and employed to build a new identity around your own constituency. The hero becomes those particular constituencies. So there are films called Torilali, which means industrial worker, in which the hero is a factory worker and he labors hard, he becomes the head of the union. He saves the working class from a certain disaster, and so on. Or he becomes a rickshaw wala, and again, this was the days when Tamil Nadu had a large number of cycle rickshaw people. Today, it's virtually been abolished in Tamil Nadu. It's only motorized rickshaws available, but those days, the cycle rickshaw guys constituted a huge constituency. So he becomes a cycle rickshaw wala, but he's gone to college, he quotes Shakespeare, and all those kind of things. He again wins the rich man's daughter. That's always a constant theme. But he pits his cycle rickshaw against rich fellow's, what do you call, diesel bus. And in that race, there's a race, and he wins the race, and therefore he wins the bus. And so on. Now, 1967, they come to power. Immediately, between 1967 and 1973, when MGR starts entering politics, when he becomes also the chief minister, you have 6 years. In 6 years, about 10 or 11 films are made, where the earlier Robin Hood thing is no longer there. The earlier addressing constituency, specific constituency is no longer there. Now the hero is always either a policeman or an honest bureaucrat. So, because now they are in power, now they can't criticize themselves. So, they are in power and they represent themselves as good policemen and good bureaucrats. So, that's the way the whole shift in the cinema language happens. And of course, in real life and in cinema, constantly MGR is addressing this whole issue of feeding the poor. Yeah, so this is kind of graphics you could find all over the state. He was highly celebrated for this. MGR was the first Indian political leader probably who introduced the idea of a midday meal in schools, which now has become universal. Like every state has it. The central government has declared the need for midday meals and so on, noonday meals, and he's constantly shown sitting with children, eating food with them, and so on and so on. He's feeding the poor, wiping the tears from their eyes. So this whole thing, the way cinema was mobilized, the way street graphics was mobilized, the way posters were mobilized, is a whole lesson in itself in contemporary Indian politics, how they did it in that way. Now, I started doing all this because of a particular interest I had in, this of course is something very common even today you will find in buses, in auto rickshaws, in taxis, in public places. You will find this kind of iconography of M.G. Ramachandran all over the place. That's actually a mobile temple. There's a photograph. There is incense burning, and you can put a little chanda, and they give you a little prasad at the end of it. And here, my God, it was there on T-shirts. This is greeting cards, New Year greeting cards, Pongal greeting cards. And these are, of course, the political posters that you see. Yeah. So now the reason I started doing this kind of photography and I got interested in this was on the street you find a very interesting clash between what, let's say, a film poster says or a political poster says and what is actually happening on the street. So you take an example of this. The same poster I showed you, Marma Yogi, the man, the hero who could solve the problems of his community by pressing certain crucial points and solving all the ills and all the illnesses and making it a healthy community again. On the street, the juxtaposition is really brutal because the claims of the cinema and the actual reality are two completely different things. So I was trying to expose the hollowness of that thing. You know? On the one hand, you have street boys who are taking from a garbage bin leftover food to eat. They don't have food enough to eat. They're scrounging from the garbage bin. But on top, the heroes cleaning something else. Or this kind of thing. The hero is doing all kind of heroics, but is not able to solve the problems of the garbage picker. Or the title of the film is Panakkara Kudumbam, which means the rich person's family, the wealthy person's family. And look at what the wealthy person's family is. They're cooking on the street, the kind of stove, and the whole household is on the street without a roof. So the irony of this, the juxtaposition, the claim on the poster, and the reality that you see, the sheer irony of that. Or this one, where the very clever shopkeeper, a street side shopkeeper who's selling chappals. So chappals, of course, you don't sell individually, you sell in a couple, a pair. So this is the hit pair. And he's using the hit pair in the most interesting way to sell his chappals. And including that mat at the bottom which says use me. And this was the full version of the opening shot that I showed you, where what I actually did was to go very close to this. It's a pavement that is hardly 3 feet or 4 feet broad. There is this huge poster here. It's about 20 or 22 feet long, that poster. I went very close and with a normal lens I photographed just this. Yeah. And that's a very common identifiable thing in Tamil Nadu. In fact, most parts of South India, if I show just that, people say MGR. The identity is very strong. Then I take 2 steps back and then I get his whole face. Then there's another, I'm not showing it to you, but that's the exercise I was trying to do. In 6 images, how to move from illusion to reality. So you take just that first, that's a very illusion picture. When you come a little further, you get just the face of the hero. That's again a mystical picture. Then you come a little further, you get the title of the film. The title of the film is Kudumba Thalaivan, or head of the family. Now, what kind of family is it presiding over? So by the time I've taken this picture, I've come almost to the middle of the road and I've taken this picture. So you see once again the whole, irony, the violence, the brutality of what the film is claiming and what the reality is. So my intention in setting out to do this work was to A, study the history of how identity was constructed through using cinema, and B, use that same medium, the photographic medium, to demolish that identity. So this of course is the aftermath. Now this is the next superstar who emerged, Vijay Khan. But he could not survive without using the MGR iconography in film after film. He has to, always inside his house there will be an MGR portrait hanging, or he'll be wearing a t-shirt like this, or be waving a flag which is an MGR image. So all the subsequent stars have survived because they have paid homage to MGR. And then finally in 1983, MGR is given a doctorate by Madras University because after having done all this, that's the most ultimate honor that one can bestow on him. And then when he dies in 1988, he becomes a god. So that's the puja part going on. And then as well I'm concerned, this is what history does to them. Sweeps them into the garbage bin of history. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sadananda ji, for such an intriguing conversation. तपाईहरुमध्ये कसैलाई केही सोध्न मन छ भने please feel free.
The difference between Tamil Nadu and South India.
Difference between
Tamil Nadu and South India.
Tamil Nadu and South India. South India is a huge area. Like I said, it comprises of four states. You have Kerala on the west coast of India. If you have a map of India there, you can see.
Asking about the South Indian film and Tamil Nadu to buy.
No. Basically, this is Tamil Nadu. This is Kerala. That is Andhra Pradesh. This is Karnataka. It's a huge area here. That is South India. And all four have four different languages and very, very healthy film traditions and all. Very powerful. Meaning, box office. What do you call? Front rankers. Like I said, those four states combined make over 350 films a year, whereas Bollywood in Bombay makes only 240, 250.
He's asking what's the difference between the Tamil and South Indian films?
So, I don't understand the meaning. There is no such thing as South Indian film. It's either a Malayalam film, or a Tamil film, or a Telugu film, or a Kannada. Yeah? So, supposing I ask you, what is your South Asian language? What will you say? There is no South Asian. Nepali, I am Indian, some German, whatever. Each one has a different linguistic identity. So there is no such South Indian. South India is a geographic term. Anything below the Vindhya mountains is called South India.
What usually happens with the South Indian and Tamil film as an audience in Nepal is, supposedly there's a movie as Rajnikant. So very eventually we will say it's a South Indian movie. And supposedly there's a movie, a South Indian movie in a Tamil language. Then we differentiate, okay, it's probably not a South Indian movie, it's a Tamil movie. So how do you clarify that?
No, I'm saying that's a huge mistake because it's like saying a North Indian film for a Bhojpuri film. It means nothing. It's a Bhojpuri film, it's a Bengali film, it's a Punjabi film, it's a Hindi film. They are North Indian languages. Similarly in South India, you have four distinct languages. They all make their own films. So, South Indian cinema, you can say if you're discussing versus North Indian cinema, versus Hindi cinema, then you can say South Indian cinema. But then you talk about all the different languages.
Earlier you talked about the mission filmmaking for political purpose, political benefit.
I didn't get it.
You talked about mission filmmaking for political benefit and political purpose and for their gain. And actually, when and how did it end? Now there are movies, Bollywood about all romance and everything about that. In our family, the situation was not like this. So actually, how the situation changed? The transition from mission filmmaking for their own benefit or something to the romance and entertainment enjoyment.
That's what I'm saying. This entire Tamil language cinema was mobilized for a political purpose. Not for a long time. They made only 36 films under that banner. And by the time M.G. Ramachandran becomes Chief Minister, that kind of cinema stops. So now you don't have it. Even though the parties are in power, now you don't have that cinema. They have gone ahead to do other things. Their propaganda works to other means today. But if you look at the political career of someone like Amitabh Bachchan, very popular superhero, but he couldn't survive in politics, not one day. So that's the difference between a cinema that is constructed with a clear propagandist purpose, and identity building purpose, and just a popular hero who comes into politics but doesn't succeed.
One question, what were the audiences then at the time and now?
What are the audiences like then and now?
Who are the audiences?
Audiences are the same people. Like I said, they're box office audiences. They're people who are still giving blood to go and see. And
did it reach international level or like showing in different other nations also or only in India? The movies were
there's a huge Tamil population in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Thailand, in Singapore, in Canada, in USA. There's a diasporic community. Same thing for Hindi also. In fact, if you notice Hindi cinema today, and if you talk to the big producers, Subhash Ghai or what's his name? Kashyap, is it?
Yes,
Anurag Kashyap and Yashua. They will tell you that they are actually making the films for the NRI audience. The whole new cinema that is emerging, it is not meant for the Indian audience anymore. It's meant for an NRI audience because 48% of their audience now resides abroad. And they're a high-paying audience. When in an American multiplex, you pay some $35 to go and see a film. You get back a big return. So they're constructing the films like that. The storylines are researching. Subhash Ghai has written a very interesting essay. He's researching on the kind of color sensibility that a child who has grown up in America, in NRI, non-resident Indian, who has grown up in America, what kind of color sensibility does he have? He doesn't like probably this kind of color. He may like pastel shades, light blue, light pink, light brown, something like that. So the hero wears that kind of color. And so they do a lot of research like that. And they're quite open about it, they're talking about it.
India is still celebrating the 100 years of Indian cinema. What happened so soon that the Indian cinema became such a huge economically contributing factor for the country? Today, Reliance wants to produce. Amitabh Bachchan sneezes, it becomes the headline on the front page. What happened in, even until 1990s when Ajay Devgan were doing movies, or the Tamil movies were there, the South movies were there, it wasn't still that big economically. But today now, the Indian cinema is something really phenomenal. What actually took it to such a high?
But two things. One is, like I said, the NRI interest in it, which means you have now what's called a global audience. And the idea of India being a global superpower merges well with this idea of a global audience. And they obviously have more purchasing power. They can buy these goods. Cinema is a cultural product today, so they can buy this product much more easily than any other place. And second is the discovery of what is called accessory selling. So I think a good 1 month before a film is released nowadays, what is released first is the music DVD and the music videos, and they are the ones who sell. And Subhash Ghai, once again, when he made this film called Tal, he's the guy who started this trend. And he made Tal with Aishwarya Rai and some brilliant music. He released the DVDs 1.5 months before the film was released. And just on the sales of the DVDs, he recovered 80% of his investment in the film. If the film had flopped, he had no problem because he already recovered the investment. The other thing he did was to make another accessory called the Aishwarya Rai doll, which was selling all over the world for $15. The Aishwarya dolls. He recovered the money.
Does the South Indian movie and Bollywood still share the rivalry kind of feeling?
There is not that kind of rivalry because they are different languages, so the exhibition space, there is no clash. Except in the metros, like in a city like Bombay, you may find, and there's a huge number of people from South India who live in Bombay, from Kerala, from Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Karnataka, a huge number live in Bombay. Some of the areas in Bombay are entirely there, controlled by them, Chembur, Matunga, etc., etc. And therefore there are some movie houses there that will show only South Indian films there. But there is no competition to the rest of the thing because it's much bigger and so. And the Hindi films come to South India, but again in very few theatres. They're running well nowadays. All the Hindi films are big hits in South India, but it's not seen as a competition anymore because the audiences have grown and the market has grown and people have money now. Nobody donates blood to see a movie nowadays. now you're earning that money.
Would you agree that the commercial movies that Bollywood is making in the recent times is contributing more economically than the mission movies that were made then?
No doubt about it, absolutely. No, it's not a question of contribution alone, it's also the investment. Investment today, an average Bollywood filmmaker doesn't make a film below 50 crores. And that's something astounding. It's a huge amount of money, and it means over 2,000 people are surviving on that investment. And if the film bombs, like the Hal was also saying, many of them just collapse. They crash at the box office. And it takes the industry with it. The industry also crashes. But the economic logic of the industry is such that if you make, let's say 100 films a year that are 50 crore plus, and out of that only 10 make profit, that's enough for the industry. Everybody survives. That's the kind of profit vision.
Thank you so much.
I want your analysis on this. That what made the Tamil film stars to succeed and enter politics and succeed in politics, while in North, we have endless number of examples. Whether it began with Amitabh Bachchan and then Raj Kapoor and so on, but they Govinda or whoever tried to enter politics, they flopped. But in South, in Tamil Nadu particularly, as you showed, it continues. And are there some parallel examples in Telugu film industry or in Malayalam film industry or Kannada film industry?
Telugu, yes. One of the persons who started the Telugu Desam Party, of which Chandrababu Naidu is the head now, that's N.T. Ramarao, who was as popular as MGR. He played only mythological roles. He would play either Rama or Krishna. Painted blue and he'll play mythological roles. Very, very popular. Superstar. And his sons, his grandsons, his nephews, they're all film stars in Telugu today. Entire family controls the Telugu film industry. So too in Karnataka, there's a very, very popular star called Rajkumar, who played only romantic heroes. He died at the age of 70, but he played till the end only romantic heroes, dancing and cavorting with 16-year-old girls and all that. But very popular, and till the end he remained. That is, he entered politics and kept on winning all the time. He didn't start a party. Unlike N.T. Ramarao, who started a party, or MGR, who started a party, these guys didn't start a party. Now, the reason why they're popular is also because, like I said, it was connected to a certain kind of political identity building, which Amitabh Bachchan was not trying, or Jitendra was not trying, or Mithun Chakravarti was not trying. They were just popular film stars. They were getting into the role whatever the director was asking them to do. Whereas these guys were very consciously political. When this guy played the role of the bandit king or Robin Hood kind of figure, he really believed in what he was doing. And when he spoke his lines, the conviction was there. We want a new society to come. That's what made all the difference. It came through in the cinema.
But what now? The society has
changed now in the sense people are not anymore selling blood to watch the films. But still, the Tamil Nadu politics is dominated by the same old cinema stars.
Yeah, so that feudalism or that feudalist connect is still there. One can't say how long it will last. But you do have, in the last roughly 8 years, a completely new crop of Tamil cinema, which is on par with anything in the world. You can easily send them to Oscars and all that. That kind of excellent production values, very, very good camera work, it's fantastic editing, very, very good sound scenography. So that cinema is emerging. Just like in Hindi, a new kind of Amir Khan kind of, Anurag Kashyap kind of film is emerging. So in all these regions, cinema is also changing. Society is changing and cinema is also changing. Audiences are changing, they're demanding new things. Nobody wants to see this kind of heroics on screen anymore. Earlier they used to say that maybe the urban audience doesn't like it, but rural audience, we are making films for rural audience, so they like it. But today even that is not true. So that the whole scene is still.
Sure. My name is Gopal. Professionally, I'm a professor. So I have a question about MGR, who was so popular. Actually, just tell us a little bit about how people judged him when he switched over from being an actor to the politician. So as an actor, he was very successful, and as a politician,
even more successful.
So
11 continuous years as chief minister.
So how do people compare? His political career, imparted any negative impact on his...
Lot of negative reaction. By the time he finally passed away, people were completely with blind faith. That's another kind of superstition. That kind of blind faith in an actor or some person you're seeing on screen. When he first made his new party called ADMK in 1973, he was not sure whether people were with him or not. I did not show you some of those slides. So in 1973, when he had his first public meeting, in Chennai we have the world's second longest beach. So your public meeting was attended, according to reports, by over 3 million people. And parallelly, he organized meetings in big towns of Tamil Nadu, Madurai, Trichy, Coimbatore. Simultaneously, meetings with his own party workers were addressing that. But he addressed the party in that meeting in Chennai on the beach. He said, all those who are with me, to prove your loyalty, before you leave this area today, please tattoo a symbol on your arms. Whether you are with me, he had already arranged 400 tattoo makers to sit there. So in a line, people queued up with big tattoo. So somebody said MGR in Tamil, somebody said MGR in English, somebody just got his face tattooed, like the image of his face. Somebody the party flag, so a lot of tattoos. Today if you travel in Tamil Nadu, you will find a lot of people who have a white patch here. Or something like a boil, big boil will be here. And you wonder what is, you ask them, by now it's very clear what they did. Because they lost faith in the party after a few years, they would just put the hand onto the flame and get it burnt. Or pour acid and take it out. So those were just, on a dark skin, this will look like a very white patch. So actually the body connection was very strong. Blood, acid, fire, all that was going on. So there was a disillusionment because MGR, for all his promises, for all his food, politics, feeding the poor, feeding school children, he also became something like a police raj. And therefore, there was a lot of resistance and people got disillusioned very fast.
And one more question. Do people still talk about his relationship with the present Chief Minister, Jayalalitha?
Yeah, they do, but I think in India this has never been an issue. In Tamil Nadu particularly it's not an issue. The other guy, Chief Minister, I showed you, Karunanidhi, he has 3 wives. Yeah, and the 2 sons from one marriage are claiming to be the political heirs. The elder son is a bit of a crooked guy, so the father is very suspicious about handing over to him. So he was sent to the central government to be part of the coalition thing. He became Minister for Chemicals. He couldn't spell chemicals, but became the minister. The younger son has been officially handed over the party as the Deputy Chief Minister. The daughter from the 3rd marriage is also claiming political space. So she was sent to the Rajya Sabha. She's in the Rajya Sabha now. So they're all there. And nobody says that how can you have 3 wives and how can you send their children to you, follow dynastic politics. Jayalalitha herself openly lives with a woman today, and people commonly call her a lesbian. But it's not taken in a negative way. That's very interesting. I mean, in America or in UK, the fellow will lose the post immediately if he was caught flirting or caught in the wrong way. But in South, it's very open.
sir, once again. With this, we come to the end of today's talk program. And I request Abhay sir to kindly give a token of appreciation for his invaluable presence here on such short notice.
We have recorded your discussion and we are putting it on YouTube, which will be seen by lots of. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I learned so much.
तपाईहरु पनि धेरै लामो समयदेखि हामीसँग बसिराख्नु भएको छ कतिजना टाढा बस्नुभएको हुनाले जानु पनि पर्यो प्लिज अलिकति स्न्याक्स लिएर मात्र गइदिनु होला थ्यांक यू सो मच आइदिनु भएको